what would you say are the biggest challenges you're facing uh, with Uptime AI? And are those the same challenges your competitors are facing as well? From an industry
Um,
standpoint.
yeah, I think from an industry standpoint, I think there is more. Different industries and different markets are at different maturity
Mhm.
levels, right? In terms of what how they see digital solutions, right? And I think that variation is something, in the general maturity of the market, is something that I think overall, as all vendors, we have to do. There is still room to send that clarity in terms of how what is the process, how
Mhm.
how you can take it forward, and what are the different use cases and so on. I think that as an overall industry, I think there's more to be done to get to that level of
Mhm.
maturity. Comparing to other markets and other industries, right? If you look at just B2C market, I mean the way the analytics are used, or logistics for that matter, right?
Mhm.
It's considerably more mature compared to a more conservative, industrial segment. Um, on the other hand, the other part is also, um, I think, we've also done a lot of work in terms of, cybersecurity, scaling
Mm.
up, right? The processes that need to be in place to give that comfort to the customer.
Mhm.
And I think, again, a lot of education, a lot of, information sharing in terms of what we're doing, how these are safe and secure in terms of cloud migration. I think these are areas where industry is evolving, and I think in probably in a few years, it's not going to be a real problem.
What would you say? This is your first time leading a company. Um, what I'm curious, did you have an expectation of what it would be like? What did it actually turn into? And what are some of the mistakes that you've made along the route?
So yeah, I've always been passionate about. I've always been very hands-on,
Yeah.
right? And I've always been passionate about building something that can improve the lives of other people.
Mhm.
And so from that perspective, it was doing a startup or starting up something was pretty much something that was on my
Mhm.
mind for maybe several years, right, before I started Uptime AI. So that gives a drive to kind of keep
Yeah.
going. But to answer your question about what is the how was the process, it's I would say it's incredibly satisfying,
Mhm.
right? And because when you see a passionate team around you, my
Mhm.
co-founder, is a great friend of mine.
Mhm.
We go back almost 20
Ah.
years, and this is his second startup.
Mhm.
So
So
he
he's a
also
repeat
brings a wealth
founder.
of knowledge.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Okay, that's
exactly.
great.
So he's done this
Mhm.
before, and we're really lucky to have a very strong team
Mhm.
around me who's also equally passionate about making a huge impact in the manufacturing segment and what
Mhm.
we're doing. And so we're working incredibly hard, definitely, and we really put the customer at the forefront, at the center of what we're doing to make sure that they get the value, they're
Mhm.
satisfied. What are the challenges? It's very, very highly customer focused. And when we see that kind of response and the satisfaction, it motivates
Oh,
us even
sure.
more, right? Has there been ups and downs and
Mhm.
challenges? Yes. I mean, there's always 36 hours worth of work in 24 hours, but that's part
Mhm.
of the startup journey, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So as a CEO though, what would you say are, where are some of the where have you made mistakes personally as a leader?
hmm
And
hmm
where and are you still having challenges in any of those areas?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think one of the couple. I'll talk about a couple
Yeah.
of areas, right? One area is it's always easier to accept or to say yes to things. It's always harder to say no.
I
And
hear
as
that a
a
lot.
startup,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
When you're yeah,
Yeah.
when you're beginning,
Mhm.
you do get these, you can be pulled in different
Mhm.
directions, right? And especially we also see that when customers find that you're honest, and you deliver what
Mhm.
you promise, right? You're a good company, they also want you to do more. And we have seen this, quite a bit with customers where they like our solution, and then they ask
Mhm.
us for a lot more. I mean, during the COVID period, we have seen customers coming to us and say, we want to detect whether you know um, engineers are wearing masks or not. We want to install cameras, and can you detect whether people are wearing masks, right?
Wow.
It's not necessarily what we
You're
focus
right.
on, but
Being
and
Big
so
Brother.
initially, exactly,
Yeah.
and so initially we thought a lot about it, and maybe we've taken one such
Mhm.
use case, but then we quickly realized that we don't want to be a generic, you know, data science or analytics company. We want to be a very focused, best in class solution for operations,
Mhm.
right? For machine and machine operations,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
process and manufacturing operations.
Right.
So we decided to pull back. So that was one lesson learned, that not to dilute just because we want to be nice to customers.
Sure.
So after that, we recommended, when customers come to us and ask us, we have this certain challenge or certain use case, we connected them with maybe
Someone
other
else who can solve
players
that.
or
Yeah.
other
Very good.
providers who might be better
Mhm.
suited.
Mhm.
Um, the other lesson learned or other challenge that I found is essentially finding right
Yeah.
people,
Well, yeah.
right? This is as I mentioned, it's very very important to have a great team
Mhm.
who can complement and can support, the vision and how we execute that. And I think part of it is you can't just always go by qualifications, because the fit is extremely
Yep.
important, right? As you go into a large company, people talk a lot about fit and culture, and when you're young as a startup, you kind of think that maybe that's because you have certain constraints and other things, so you're always trying
Mhm.
to work around those. But then when I think that culture and fit is extremely important,
Mhm.
especially for the mission, for whether they have the same kind of interest and passion that
Mhm.
you are seeing or you have for your vision. So had made some mistakes there, but then we quickly kind of learned what to do, what not to do, what to look for,
Mhm.
to make sure that there's a good alignment. And so we do value a lot more about the fit and the culture. Sometimes even more than
Mhm.
absolutely specific, skill set.
Mhm. Did you not have anybody, advisors or mentors, guiding you through that process? Because, not knowing that costs you money out of the box, right?
Right,
In making
right,
bad
right,
hires, bad
right,
hires,
right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah. I think we do. We did, and we still do. So a lot of it, I think, some of those aspects are, you do understand that culture is important, right? But then, what specifically is more important to be looked at? I think some of that is a learning experience for us. So it wasn't that we were making completely we're not bringing in people who were not
Mhm.
very or totally bad fit, right? But then we weren't necessarily looking at whether it would suit a startup life, or some of those elements where it's important um, for the team member to also understand what is involved in a startup. Some of the ambiguity, some of
That's
that.
right.
Wearing multiple hats, right? Especially for people who are coming in from a very large
Well,
enterprise or large
right.
companies.
I mean,
So
there's a
yeah,
case not to hire people like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Carol Schultz here. Thanks for watching this excerpt from Authentically Successful. The conversation doesn't end there. So if you want to hear this episode in full and all my conversations with many other successful founders and CEOs, please visit verticalelevation.com/podcast.